Hi teacher friends, Happy New Year! If you're new here, I'm MacKenzie, a 5th grade teacher in Northern California. In this video, I really wanted to reflect back on 2020 and just how hard of a year that was for so many of us. Teaching last year was definitely not easy, and I really wanted to share with you some struggles that I faced during the year and share what I plan to do this year to prioritize well-being and a healthy work-life balance. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and please give this video a thumbs up so even more teachers can discover this content. So let's start with thinking all the way back to March. So that was really the last time I was in my classroom with students, and thinking of that time when we were told that, oh, this will probably just be a couple of weeks and then we'll be back. But then those couple of weeks turned into a couple more weeks, which turned into a couple of months, which turned into not really having full closure with my students last year. And all of that stress with all of those unknowns really were carried over into summer, just not really knowing what the fall was really going to look like. All the things I was used to, like setting up my classroom and getting ready to welcome my new students, had all become unknown. Would I even have a classroom this year? Would I be starting at my new school? And when the school year started, I became a virtual school teacher for my district, which means I was working from home, and now work became home and home became work, and those lines were just really blurred. And I really started questioning, am I doing enough? Am I doing the right thing? Am I supporting my students enough this year? So if any of that sounds familiar, please know you are not alone. All teachers have been pulled in so many different directions. There have been so many unknowns, and we have been put in so many different uncomfortable situations this year. But it's been a struggle. Even when teachers seem like they have it all together, most likely they don't. I know I've been struggling a lot this year. I've even had people ask me how I've been able to balance this channel while also teaching. It must be easy for you. But the reality is it has been hard. I have been struggling. But being good with tech was really motivating for me because I really wanted to find a way to help you, to help other teachers, and relieve just some of that stress and some of those struggles that we're having this year, because I get it. It is hard. So let me dive deeper into why teaching in 2020 was such a hard year. The first is that everything just takes way longer. We have had to totally revamp the way that we teach. Just the amount of time everything takes was definitely something I wasn't used to. This is my 6th year of teaching, and lesson planning now takes me at least 3 times longer than I am used to because everything is now being created digitally. And it's not like I have last year's resources to pull from. We are taking our paper curriculum and turning it and creating it to be digital, and that takes time. We're also trying to keep in mind of what questions are going to come up from students, trying to make that content accessible for them. I know that I am creating so many slideshows every day, and no matter how simple I make them, it still takes a lot of time. So if you've noticed that your planning takes a lot longer, know that I am right there with you. I also felt like I had become an on-call teacher this year for 24/7 for students and parents because I did really want to be there to help them. If they had a question at 7 p.m., I wanted to be there to support them in case that just happens to be when they do their schoolwork. I wanted to be flexible and be there for them, but it was also making it really hard to ever shut work off. There's just so much new technology that is new to us and new to our students and families, and I wanted to be there to answer their questions, which also means that I also kind of felt like tech support. I was staying on my Zoom call so that I could help my students, walk them through how to log in, and it is a lot to balance. I know I felt like things continued to change, to be added to our plates when we already were really packed full, and it was starting to get really exhausting and overwhelming. The extra stresses coming from admin and the changes to our schedules and maybe even curriculum. And at the same time, with so much piling up, it was still having me question, am I doing enough for my students to help them this year? And honestly, it's easy to go on to Instagram and feel a little discouraged because you see what other teachers are doing and it seems like they have it all together. And the reality is that this is hard. We all have our own struggles. And if you are at all questioning how you've been doing this year, please know that you are doing enough and your best is enough. And I know during the school year, when I am starting to feel overwhelmed or there's a lot, I love going to my coworkers and I have that community at my school. And this year, there isn't one. Our job that was usually so social, and we would go to the teacher lounge and I would go to my coworkers' classrooms and check in, and having my students run into my classroom to say hi to me at lunchtime, that was no longer here, and that was really hard. It could be really lonely. lonely. All of these things had really started to add up. It left me feeling really burnt out and exhausted at the end of December there. So all of these things were really adding up, considering a work-life balance and the overall well-being. If any of this sounds familiar to you, please know that your feelings are valid. You are not alone. 2020 was a really hard year. As teachers, we really are in this together. I am honestly so thankful for this community, and if you've been feeling the same way, please let me know. If you just want to vent or chat, you can leave it in the comments. I know 2021, we're still going to have those mountains to climb and those challenges, but I am hopeful, and there's some things that I'm definitely going to prioritize this year to hopefully make this year a little more manageable and just better than last year. So there are 5 things I'm going to prioritize this year to hopefully make this year a little bit better. So the first is I'm going to prioritize my student relationships. So thinking about last year, not even having closure with my last students, it really taught me to really make the most of the time I have with my students. This year more than ever, I know my students are craving connection. I want to make sure that I am prioritizing those relationships with them, checking in on them, because I know this year has been hard on us, it has been hard on the students and their families, and I really want to make sure that I am making the most out of my time on Zoom with them. This means finding additional ways to have my students connect with me, to connect with each other. I know on Zoom, our time can feel so limited, it goes by so quickly, and at the same time, we can have a lot of pressure trying to get through as much content as we can, which really means making that time on Zoom even more meaningful, making the most out of every minute we have with our students for both content and also relationships. My students will always be my why, and that is how I've really made it through this year. The second thing I'm going to do is to really set clear boundaries. When it comes to work, my work-life balance was just not sustainable for the rest of the year. It's going to lead to teacher burnout. I am no longer going to be that on-call teacher. I'm going to make sure that I am working within my contract hours. I know that is really hard to do. And so to help with that, I am going to use timers. I'm going to set time limitations on my planning. And if something doesn't get done, that's going to be moved on to the next day. Really prioritize what I'm working on so that it fits within the time constraints that I'm putting on myself. I'm also going to remind myself that it is okay to check emails in the morning, to respond to Class Dojo messages the next day if they are sent to me in the evening, and actually using my workspace. When I have a designated area that I see as work and actually stay there, I can focus better and not actually carry my laptop to the couch or to the living room where I am more likely to spend longer planning, and then it blurs the lines of that work-life balance. The third thing I'm going to do is to really trust myself as an educator. I am doing enough, and my best is enough. Nobody has done what we are doing this year, and I know that it is a hard year. There are days where I have been doubting myself, but I know what I'm doing. I know how to teach, and I do need to trust myself more when it comes to making decisions that are best for my students. Like I was saying, our time on Zoom is so limited, which means we're not getting through as much as we are going to in a typical school year, and we can't compare our teaching this year to our teaching in the classroom. We just can't, because it's a really unfair comparison. So I'm really going to make sure that my lessons are going to maximize my student engagement when possible, and really to make the most out of the time I spend with my students online, the conversations we're having, and trust that the decisions I'm making are good enough and it will be okay. The fourth thing I'm going to do this year is to really set realistic expectations. Now I know when I am in the classroom, I really like things to be run a certain way, but as we learned in 2020, there are so many unknowns and things are constantly changing. And I know this year things are going to continue to change. So I'm really going to do my best to not worry about the things that are out of my control and really focus on the solutions to the things that are in my control. The fifth thing I'm definitely going to prioritize this year is to take care of myself. The amount of time I was spending on work just was not sustainable. I was feeling so exhausted and burnt out at the end of last month. And after just a couple weeks off and that winter break, I just feel so much more refreshed, and it really reminded me of just how much I wasn't taking care of myself. So with the start of this year, I'm really going to be better about doing more things that make me happy, that refill my cup, getting outside and going for a walk, making sure that I'm drinking enough water, and surrounding myself with people who do encourage me to do the things that I love and can also hold me accountable for all of those other healthy habits that I want to maintain. Really using my support system so that we can be there for each other. I know that I need to take care of myself in order to be there for my students in the right way. So those are 5 things that I'm going to definitely prioritize this year. So remember, please take care of yourself. 2020 was definitely a hard year for everyone, so let's hope for a better 2021. Thank you so much for being here. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and please give this video a thumbs up. I'll see you next time. Bye everyone.